You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. It's Q1. We're near the end of January, and a lot of people are making the same mistakes. A lot of the same mistakes I've always made in Q1, and me and Chad are going to be talking about them today. We're going to be talking about what really distracts us, gets us off base, and the emotions that are going on in Q1 are very different. We hopefully had a great Q4, getting a huge commission check at the end of January. Hopefully going to President's Club. Yeah, you got your kickoffs, you got new territories, new quotas, new products. All this change is happening now. And what ends up happening is we get distracted. We get a little bit emotional. We get a little bit hungover in a sense. And we're going to be talking about what's the best way of managing this, preventing it, and staying focused to really crush it in 2018. And a couple of ways to do that is you got to use AI to do your prospecting for you. That's why I use nudge.ai. If you're not using this, it has Chrome plugin, has a plugin to Salesforce. What finds out is what your prospects, your total addressable market cares about is sharing, and tells you what level of relationship you have within that account. Now get your manager to get the team account so that you can see throughout your whole team who has the strongest relationship within that account. The person most likely to get you an introduction to start the conversation and get the meeting. Also, update on the course. The feedback is fantastic. People are now applying it. We're probably now, 3-4 weeks into it. I've got people who rave reviews. I'm modifying it pretty much weekly, adding new content. Office hours start the 2nd of February. If you bought the course, if you haven't bought the course, buy it by the 31st of January before the price increase goes up. It's a 6-month course. It might take a week to go through it, but it's a game changer, and it's a behavior changer, which requires you to actually think differently and unlike a salesperson. Also, check out my YouTube channel this week where I show a video of how I'm using Pipedrive with smart contacts. Now let's get into the interview with Chad, and I'll sum it up at the end. Hey Chad, what do you see people making big mistakes with in Q1?
The first and easiest one, and we kind of joked about this before, but I see a lot of reps not leverage or take their sales kickoff seriously, right? It becomes hey, we're going to Vegas, we're going to Dallas for 4 days, or we're going to New York, and the jokes start in December about who's going to get the drunkest and pass out and miss a meeting or whatever. Depending on what that agenda is, I mean, I've seen organizations invest quite a bit to make those events extremely valuable for reps. And I think the tendency for reps is to think, hey, this is a party for a week, rather than really grab every nugget they can from those kickoffs so it can power their year. Not only energize them and let them learn and connect with coworkers, but some of the content that companies put out there is pretty impressive. I mean, they'll bring in guest speakers, and we've both done that for companies. Kickoffs, you have workshops where you can learn more about the products, or test your skills in some kind of new sales approach or something like that. It's an opportunity to feed your head that I think is kind of unrivaled, and I don't see a lot of reps really taking it seriously.
Yeah, I've seen it because I've been on both sides of it. I can't tell you, the number of kickoffs that I've sat through as a rep, and in the last 5 years, the number of that I've done, and certainly when you're the presenter up there for a couple of days, it's brutal.
It is. Trying to keep their attention.
Yeah, well, that's it, especially when you have, hundreds as opposed to, a small group. I love the small groups when you got in the hundreds and you're supposed to engage them. It's really hard. And, I could basically tell you by what they're doing, how much they're making. I I can tell. Okay, you got the the C players who always sit in the back, or playing with their phones all the time. The A players are sitting right up front. They're coming up with questions. They're interrogating you. Yes. They're really trying to get something out of you because I'm not a comedian or an actor. I'm really there trying to help you make more money. And
right.
in that part, if you don't embrace it, argue with somebody, debate it. because that's when you really learn, because that's where you get on the same page. And it is too easy just to kind of sneak out of the room and start calling your clients or surf the web or whatever else distracts you.
Well, and I loved with doing kickoffs halfway through, typically, if it's a keynote or if it's a workshop, like halfway through the morning, I'll just stop and I'll say, okay, I want to make a prediction. Those of you that are looking at your phones right now are going to be working someplace else next year. Those of you that are engaged with me are going to beat your quota, and those that are still trying to figure out why you're in the room, you have a chance. So take a step towards me, and I'll take 2 steps towards you. But I can't do this for you. And it's funny to see what's happening before I do that, what happens after I do that, and then next year when I'm back, how right was I?
Well, that's it. I made the mistake of just ignoring them, because if they're not invested in themselves, why should I? But you could just tell, and I never outed anybody, because managers always ask, who gets it, who doesn't. And the thing is, in sales, that the order takers are not going to survive. No matter how much you kiss your manager's butt, those jobs, they're just not going to pay that much for you to process paper. I mean, you have to continually evolve yourself, because the vast majority of your customers or your buyers are evolving themselves, maybe not proactively, but just as a result of having kids that are teaching them new technologies and introducing new concepts, or businesses that are going to new markets and to new products. If you don't keep up with your skill set, if you don't invest in yourself and take that opportunity, and all you want to do is pick up the phone and have somebody write you a check, man, it's time to look for another job, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and then plus you get most of the company there. You get the marketing people, the product marketing people, the people who build the product, the CEO. I mean, this is the time to build that relationship, because
how often do you have that opportunity to sit down with marketing and say, look, this is what I need. This is what will help me in sales, rather than halfway through the year complaining to your manager that marketing is not providing what you want, which kind of seems to be one of those trend lines.
Well, they're providing something to somebody.
Right.
Right. And I deal with marketing all the time, but marketing's magnet is doing what's best for their career, not the company nor sales.
Right.
Why do they do that? Because they want, they want that portfolio and that relationship with, because I deal with this all the time. And it's like, well, is that the best thing for the company? It's like, no, right. It's not. Is that what the salespeople are asking for? Nope, that's not what they're asking for. But
we got it done.
It sure would look good on your resume now, wouldn't it? But everyone's got a different motive. And if the CEO doesn't even know your name,
yeah.
Right, because I typically worked for companies in either Boston or Silicon Valley. That was kind of my space, and the cultures were exact opposites. In Boston, it's like sport. And if you read the book about like HubSpot, they call it graduation. That's how sadistic they are about firing people. And the constant conversation was who do we fire next? And it's like, well, you spend half your time hiring people and the other half do we work on actually improving people? And then Silicon Valley, it's all about, what kind of wine do you like? And where do you see the industry going? And, it's like...
I play much better on the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly more peaceful and quality of life on the West Coast, but you know what happens when it doesn't work, because it's typically either it works or it doesn't, and if the only thing that makes it work is revenue.
Yeah, at the end of the day, depending on, culture is important. All of the things are important to come together, but what are we in business for? Unless we're a nonprofit. If we're a nonprofit, maybe it's mission and funding. But if we're a business, we're a for-profit business, it's revenue. I don't know what else, what else are we? Maybe it's market share. There's 4 or 5 things that a company objective may consist of. At the end of the day, revenue is the measure. It's the measure. It's the measure for success.
That's it. I was at a super early stage company back during the boom. What was it, 99? It was like right it was right before the bust, around 2000. And the company raised $50 million without a product. Right? Because it was superstar CEOs and all this stuff. And I thought I had it made. I was, the first salesperson they hired. They hired 10 immediately. And it was all MBO based because they didn't have a product. So they were looking for pipeline, and people just made it up. It was like, and then I got the first customer, and they were yelling at me because I dedicated an engineer for a week for free to get the deal. And I go, it's revenue. Have you guys? Now we have an actual paying customer. Isn't that crazy? And they oh yeah, but he spent a week there. It was better than spending it in his basement. That's or hanging around me, going out and giving presentations that I could do on my own. But I think the point there is you got to understand the culture. And at the end of the day, the company went out of business. Obviously, so 50 million was just wiped away. And I had left there right after 9/11 because I go, this place is not going to go anywhere, and I'm money motivated, so I have to go find a real job. But, on the West Coast, you get the kumbaya speech about saving the world and the environment. But at the end of the day, the board of directors and the VCs want money. They want shareholder equity. And in sales, you can't get commission on, goodness and saving the world.
And I think that's perfect. I mean, in terms of mistakes that I see reps make, that's one of them. Forgetting what this is about. Like, it's very easy. I mean, I've been in and worked with clients that have these amazing cultures, right? There's ping pong tables and video games and there's free food and there's yoga and gyms and saunas and all of this stuff. And that's great. I get it. But that stuff isn't free. Right? That culture that you want requires revenue. I feel like I'm doing the Jack Nicholson thing from Few Good Men. It's about revenue. It's all about revenue, and reps have a tendency, I think, sometimes depending on that type of culture, to get caught up in that and forget that really. Oh, well, hey, I made my call, so I did my activity level. Okay. How much revenue did you generate today? Well, none yet, but I'm close.
Yeah.
Okay. The name of the game, understand the profession you're in. It's awesome to help businesses solve problems. You're going to meet some amazing people, and you're going to form some incredible, long-lasting relationships. And that's the spice of life. But the thing that you have been hired to do, is to capture the revenue for the company. I used to tell my teams, like, okay, look, our job is to go get the revenue. Why is our job to go get the revenue? So the company grows, and so that all of the other people in here can live nice lives, pay for their benefits, put their kids through school. We are the engine that makes that happen. So understand, without that revenue, none of that's going to happen. The company's going to shrink, close its doors, whatever. Our job is to bring in the revenue, and have don't kid yourself that it's about anything else.
Yeah. I've got a story about that because I worked at one of those companies, and, they had the ping pong table, they had a gym, beautiful gym in the building that was solely for the company. And, they had, free food, beautiful offices, all decorated and stuff, of course, with venture capital's money, not revenue.
Yeah.
And I was working there, and the new guy started, and he started taking advantage of all this stuff. And I did none of it because I know what happens when you do. And I took him aside. I go, that stuff's not for salespeople. He goes, what do you mean? It's for all the employees. I go, it is. But unless you're crushing your number, guess what they're going to tell you? Hey, enough massages. Get on the phone,
Right. Yeah. That treadmill, you know what? We could put that up at your desk so you can actually be doing calls while you're on that treadmill.
And that's it. And I think Q1, we're just naturally distracted, and I've talked to several reps in the last couple of weeks because we get the hangover from Q4 where it's like all of a sudden somebody turned the lights on at 3 a.m. at a particular entertainment establishment. we're like, we look at our watch and we're like, isn't it 9:30?
Where'd all the daylight go?
We got to go home. Everyone was so friendly to us before.
They were so excited we were here.
Yeah. And then, we got this hangover and we're like, oh, wait a second. I'm going from 15% to 3%. This doesn't feel fair. I had, 5 states, and now I've got 1 state. And now I've got to share this person with 3 other people. I'm going to look for another job. And it's like, just chill. I think people get, there's that 5 stages of grief.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to go through those 5 stages very quickly in January. Otherwise, you'll be in February and March. You won't have a new job because you're not psyched to go look for it. You're kind of mad at the company, but your quota hasn't gone down and nobody filled your pipeline for you. I think you just have to go through those stages very quickly because I went through it every year. It's actually one of the pleasures of working for yourself is that you don't have that.
Right. That is nice, right? That is very nice. I don't have that. Wait. You just cut my territory in half and increased my number 2x? How's that work? Right. Hold on a sec. I need a moment. I need to put myself in timeout. Let me go. I don't have that. I know, working for yourself, you're right. But it's one of those things. And if you're in sales long enough, you need to know it's coming, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever met a rep that was 100% satisfied with a new comp plan at the beginning of the year?
Not a one.
Not a one. Never. So you're not it's not Christmas.
Right.
It's not Christmas.
And has your comp plan ever been better? Right.
No.
Unless you're in a dying company. Then it's not really better. It's just trying to match or handicap what's happening to the industry or the company.
Right.
And, you've seen that happen all the time. But I remember one year where it's like at the kickoff, I was the rep of the year. I got this big trophy. It was my goal. And I'm looking at these people that are a lot older than me, just giving me these scarling looks of why I don't deserve it. And then like the next week, and I was like on top of the world and, going to club and everything. And then I got the comp plan and it was like, well, Brian, you made a lot of money last year. So we're going to put a couple people in your territory. And remember that guy you hired and trained as your sales engineer? He's really good. We're going to allow a lot of other people to have access to him. And I'm like looking at this and I'm like, and you mope around but that doesn't serve any purpose.
No, it accomplishes nothing.
You call all your headhunters, and they're like, "Yeah, there's plenty of jobs out there." Then you go talk to them.
Oh, hey, I haven't talked to you since last January.
And any recruiter who's worth his weight should be calling every good salesperson now.
Oh,
right?
Without a doubt. They should be pounding the phones for sure.
Yeah, because they got a hungry audience. The problem is the company you're going to, you're starting from scratch. You're getting somebody's leftover territory, because they're saying, okay, what are you willing to give up? And, Alaska. Yeah, Alaska's not.
You can have that. Hawaii, too. I'll give you Hawaii. Yeah. You can have that too. I mean, I might like to go there, but I'm not going to generate a lot of revenue from it. The comp plan stuff, it's always kind of like whack-a-mole. Right? It's like a game of whack-a-mole. You blow your number out, and then the next year they try to put together a comp plan or restructure territories or resources so that they can keep you in this imaginary band that a CFO somewhere thinks a sales rep should be in, not the one you were in last year. And then you got to pop up and pull it off again this year, pop out of another hole, and they try and smack you down with the next comp plan. Always infuriated me.
It does, and I've had a couple of managers that protected me, but that is the norm, and I think you have to get used to it. It's part of the profession. You have to say, well, I'm still making as much as a surgeon, with the education of a plumber, but. The plumbers were.
I'm totally stealing that.
Were well more educated than me. Hey, I finished in the bottom 10% of my high school class. I always say, there's somebody on death row that did better than me. So you kind of got to work that, and I think that's comes to my salespreneur idea that if your network and your social reach and your business acumen is so good, you are going to be, Jerry Maguire will find you. Somebody who will put you in the right spot, and you'll have lots of choices. If you're an order taker, you've got to just take what you're given.
Yeah. I mean, the people that work at the ultra high performers, I see them come into Q1 aware of, this is what's going to happen. We know we're going to do the emotional grieving, thing because they're going to mess with territories. We know that's going to happen. So they try to prepare themselves for that. The one mistake I have seen ultra high performers make, and not consistently, I see it occasionally, is that while they're super proactive at a sales kickoff about getting as much as they can out of it, they're the people, like you mentioned, that are in the front row engaging with you. I've seen them actually relax a little bit too much on their client interactions during that week. And it creates this little blip that takes a couple weeks to recover. It's not catastrophic by any means, but they're doing the best they can to pull everything out of that sales kickoff, and they relax their diligence with the customer communication at a time when that customer is also going through everything that happens at the beginning of a new year. And it's pretty critical to make sure you're a continued presence for those really big accounts, right? That's the one thing I've seen to make. So it's that barrier between get everything you can out of the sales kickoff, but don't forget that means at night, instead of passing out on the bar, it's probably better to be making some phone calls to your customers and sending some emails, right? I've seen them relax just a little bit too much at times.
Yeah, because that's a huge mistake, is the overindulgence on two parts. One is what you said about, keeping the thing going with the customer, because this is the time where budgets are allocated for the year. And if the company's doing well, they may be increased by the end of the year. But if the company's not doing as well, they may be reduced. The second is if you're out to 3, 4 in the morning, you're not going to be in shape the next morning. Oh. And guess what? If 100 people are at a kickoff, someone's going to show up with a cold, right? And there's all this handshaking and physical contact, and so that everyone's going to go home with a cold.
Oh yeah,
and there goes another week of your day or your month, and you just got to get your rest. Bring TheraFlu, bring those little handy
be prepared.
wipes. Yeah,
I mean, I've never. I will speak from a voice of experience. I have never in my career figured out how to be out till 3 o'clock in the morning and ensure. And I've tried, folks. I've tried.
Your research.
I've never figured out how to do it, and then be ready to rock and roll at 7 a.m. and maintain it all day. Like I can show up at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. for a meeting, and I'm good for a couple hours. But then I don't know. The world gets kind of fuzzy. Everything goes a little bit gray.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to mumble, right? You've got to take care of yourself. And that's another mistake I think we see a lot of reps make. And it's one, I'll be honest, I struggle with, right? When I'm not on the road, I'm in the gym, I'm working out, I'm watching what I eat. When I'm on the road, it's like, that gym down there just does not cut it. Or that I cannot go downstairs right now and work out. I've got to do this, that, or the other. And because I'm in a client side all day, I got to spend my nights catching up with other customers. If you don't take care of yourself physically, watch what you eat, work out, do some type of exercise, you're going to pay the price. You're going to pay the price because sales is a mentally and physically demanding profession.
It is, yeah. And like 5 years ago, I really changed my diet. I do like this green juice every morning.
Yeah, right. I love the NutriBullet.
Well, the thing is, how do you do that on the road?
That's just it, though, right? At home, it's awesome. You just throw all the greens in. Because anybody see a picture of me, you'll know I'm not really a vegetable guy. But I get the vegetables. I'm a cookie guy. I get the vegetables. I get all my vegetables, all my fruits right there in one drink. It's awesome. But on the road, I don't know. I don't know if I could. No, it would just take me more time to go to the grocery store, run down to Whole Foods, and travel with my NutriBullet. I just don't know that I can be that guy.
No. And no matter how hard, the best you can do is getting, the pre-made, somewhat healthy juices at Starbucks or something. But guess what? You're on the road. You're totally out of sorts. You're out of your routine. So, and you probably want some kind of emotional energy, physical energy. So you're going to eat sugar that you typically don't eat,
Right.
more caffeine than you typically take. And then guess what? At night, what do? You drink more than you normally would drink. And I still remember one kickoff. This guy, did backflips to get into sales. He wanted a sales job so bad. Okay, the first kickoff meeting he goes to as a sales rep, he stayed out all night. He walks in 2 hours late. And the VP of sales literally calls him out. He says, out in the hall in front of everybody, and reamed him. And the guy came in, I had to have been crying. A grown man was crying. You're an adult.
It's not a game, right? It's not a game. Sales,
right.
It's amazing how many people think sales is a game. Like, I want to get into it because that sales rep's driving. Look at this beautiful Mercedes, or all of those cliches, right? All of those cliches that go in it. Sales is a discipline. And it is a demanding one because a lot of the variable of your job are things that you have to be prepared to respond to. How's a customer going to react when the product shits the bed, or the demo craps out, or invoicing. Like I've had to deal with irate customers because it didn't like the way they were invoiced, and that's all just to maintain the revenue stream. Right? It is a demanding and it is a discipline. I think a lot of people forget that. It requires a level of professionalism. I know, folks, it sounds odd for me to use that word, but it requires a level of professionalism and commitment to the discipline in order to be successful, and quite frankly, out of respect for the other people that got their asses in the room at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. And the other thing is the whining. You have all the right to feel that way, but expressing it to the other reps and becoming known as the whiner, or the water cooler person, the gossip, that is just because everyone starts to buy into it, and you see these people because they all hang around together.
Oh yeah,
and believe me, every manager sees that, knows it, and you're on the short list if you are expressing that or becoming that whiner, no matter how bad the product, the comp plan, the territory. Keep it to yourself because your manager will respect you and will try and accommodate you if you're good.
Right.
The last thing, when I was a manager, an A player I would do anything for, and it's often said, you don't hire A players, you rent them.
Yes.
Right, because they can go anywhere. So they will get what they want. The order takers, the manager wants them to go. And if you might, getting a terrible comp plan or terrible territory might be a little hint,
So why did I get such a crappy comp plan?
So where's Alaska?
Yeah.
How do I get there? So, the whining, because you've seen reps do this all the time. They all the new comp plan, or the expense report scrutiny, or the arduous administrative activities. The way to handle it is cool off, be professional, talk to your manager one-on-one as a professional, express what is in your way, and ask for their help.
Yeah, it's always that. It's keep in mind, you can disagree with your boss in private, and publicly you should support, right? You don't want to be seen as the dissenter. I speak from the voice of experience here, folks. You do not want to be seen as the one who questions in a public forum. I learned that early, and I learned it the hard way in my career. I didn't understand that. I was young and dumb, and the rest of that saying, but I didn't know that I shouldn't do it. I hadn't been schooled in what was appropriate. That is a very important lesson. I had no problem if one of my reps wanted to come in and sit down and debate up and down about the comp plan. As long as it was an intelligent, well thought out debate. Never have done whining real well. I had a 30-second rule. You can come in, you can whine for 30 seconds, and then you better be talking about solutions. But when somebody would challenge me, or I've seen other executives too, challenge you publicly, that creates a rift that is counterproductive for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I've run into that a couple times on both sides. And yeah, because it goes back to our lizard brain, right? We've got a knee-jerk reaction to a change that's announced, and you're like, what the hell? Why are you doing that? That's not the way to do it. That even though these meetings may appear casual, they may want it to be casual, it's still not. And even when you're going out like a team dinner or something, and that's not the time to discuss a topic that could question your manager's capability or capacity. My last one is, if you're unhappy, don't be sitting on the fence. Make a decision. If this isn't the right place for you, move on, because January happens to be a big hiring season. Don't get into a stalemate. The classic stalemate is, okay, I'm not going to do what you want because you're not doing what I want. Guess what? The manager always wins.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, what, guys, it's an unfortunate truth. The managers always do. And we talked about it in another episode that we did. We talked about getting involved with talking about the comp plan before January, so it's not a surprise, right? Get involved, talk to your manager, have a sense for what it is. So if it's headed in a direction that you're not going to be comfortable with, you make your decision and be proactive January 2nd. When everybody's back in, be ready to roll. Don't sit on the fence long enough that all of a sudden you've lost part of Q1, and then you've got to use the rest of it looking for a job. And now you're hurting the company you're with because you're not really being fair to them. You're not chasing doing your job. You're looking for your next job, and it takes time. And then you've got a whole year to rebuild your pipeline depending on what the sales cycle is. So the earlier you make that decision, it's the better for everybody.
Yeah, because typically when you do start a new job, the first year typically isn't your best. The territory really isn't a cherry territory. You're not going to get the support because they don't even know if you're any good. So you typically have to spend 3 to 6 months just proving yourself. And let's face it, every manager's looking at 9 months to make a decision, and they typically make it 6 months. The classic: if you miss your number 2 quarters in a row, you're out. People typically don't talk about that other than in Boston, but that's kind of what's going on in their mind. So,
well, I mean, it's the reality of it, right? It's the reality of the situation. There are very few organizations that I've seen that give, I want to say, optimal length of time for a ramp up, right? And it's always, in my experience, it was always a battle with the CFO. The CFO, because typically you're going to have some type of recoverable or non-recoverable draw to keep them whole for a little bit, and maybe it starts high the first quarter, ramps down as you expect them, start to produce revenue. But it was always the CFO going, "Why? Look, this person's been here 6 months; they haven't produced any revenue." You do realize our sales cycle is 18 months, right? Yeah, but they haven't produced any revenue in 6 months. I'm going to give them 3 more. Okay, again, you do realize our sales cycle is 12 months. Right? And we gave him the crappiest territory we had. So, are we seeing the behaviors? Are we seeing the activity? Are we seeing the quality of interactions that we want, that we believe will produce the return? It was always a battle with the CFO, and it was the sales reps that had a tendency to pay the price for that. So, and that goes back to the episode we did on negotiating your comp plan. Like that's just one of the things you've got to know going in. The chances are somewhere around 9 months, CFO is going to get grouchy, and your boss is going to run out of ways to defend, continuing to keep you on board. So come out of the gate swinging.
And that's it. And I think that comes into a couple of things. If you're a rep that has a territory you're giving up, the smart reps have those holdouts. And then all of a sudden the new rep comes in, and any deal that's real in that territory is held out by the previous guy who doesn't have quota for it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the new guy.
It's a bluebird. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to keep this. Hey, new guy. Sorry about that. Not sorry.
That's a holdout. And I think we should do an episode on being the new sales rep in a new territory and how to justify your existence until you have, a good revenue stream.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one because it's a challenge. It's a challenge to everybody in sales, especially like you said, make your decision. Don't be on the fence, and no, anybody who's been in sales a couple of years and changed jobs 3 years or changed a job once, all you got to do is change a job once. And you know what the rest of your career is going to look like if you choose to make that jump. So, and I don't know, I'm a big respect to the company kind of guy. If they're going to pay me, I feel like I should be, doing my best to deliver what I've said I was going to deliver. So if I'm on the fence and I'm talking to recruiters and I'm looking for another job for too long, it doesn't sit right with me. So my advice is always make your decision, get involved with the comp plan, know what you're going to do, and plan that year, January 1. And again, come out of the gate swinging and be focused and get it done. Stop bitching and just get it done.
Hey, so my big things is that a year seems like a long time, especially when it begins in January. Now we're looking out at the full year and we're thinking, oh, we've got all this time. And in a way you do. But this is the time to be prospecting, to be filling your quota, your pipeline, because nobody's going to do it for you. Marketing is not going to be producing the amount of leads sufficient for you to blow your number out. You have to own that and really starting conversations with cold people. What everyone's teaching used to work. I used to use it. It did work. And what I'm hearing from everybody and look all over LinkedIn, everybody's saying it's not working anymore. And everyone's telling you got to do more. And I talk to these other experts and say, oh, you have to not only do more of it, you have to do all of it every day, all the time. And you can try that. And that may work for you. But what might work better, call me crazy, is something smarter. Start something that really is much more humanistic, much more natural, much more scientific even. That's why I came up with the course. Start the conversation, get the meeting. The link is in the show notes. It's on my LinkedIn profile, and there's a video on the YouTube channel, Maverick Method on YouTube. Make sure you sign up before the price goes up. Also, here's my summation. Okay, a year is short. Okay, number 2, the whining. You have all the reason in the world to whine. Believe me, I like to whine too. And sometimes it just feels better to get off your chest. But that's for your therapist. You have to get really focused and really, just let it go and get through it as fast as possible. Number 3 is you're going to have more distractions than you can stand in January. If you can max out your kickoff meeting, but then you got to say, like, what's going to really matter and what isn't. And block your time, come up with a pattern every day. Do not let people get on your calendar unless they are going to put money in your pocket. And the next thing is people start kicking back in January. They're waiting for club. They want to go on their winter vacation. They've got winter break, spring break coming up in March, all this stuff going on. And yes, you have to take a break. But remember, this is the time. Because if you've got a long sales cycle, 6, 9 months, think about it. That means if by the end of March you don't have it identified and a conversation started, it ain't closing in 2018. And the real money is in these cold, latent opportunities. The things that come to you that you can either make bigger or faster or win against your competition. That's a big part of the job. Always has been, always will be. But the real superstars are the ones that can get the latent people, the people who don't even know you. Don't even know they have the problem that you have. Number 5 is don't sit on the fence. Get committed to whatever it is your strategy. It should be well thought out by now, and you should be going for it immediately. Really appreciate everybody listening through this podcast. That we ranted a little bit too much maybe. And thanks for connecting up with me on LinkedIn, and really appreciate the people who are telling somebody about the podcast. It's been blowing up on iTunes. The numbers keep going up, and I certainly appreciate that. Please send me feedback on what you would like, either in courses, on the podcast, what issues you're running into. I'm here to help. I'm really trying to do the best I can. Make sure you're also checking out the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Got some great leaders, some great technology, some great approaches from a leadership on both the marketing and the sales side. And you get to maybe have an icebreaker with a CEO. Hey, I heard John Burns' podcast. Congratulations. That's it. Okay, we'll see you next time. Hey, I almost forgot. Have you joined Sales Club? I renamed the Maverick Selling Method group on LinkedIn to #Sales Club. Just search Sales Club on LinkedIn. Join that. You get the free book, The Unlimited Prospects, Unlimited Leads. It'll show you very smart ways of using the internet to find people. Find people to start communicating with, to get meetings and conversations started, because now is the time to do it. And that book is free just for joining. You also get the Maverick Matrix. It is auto-responded back to you. And LinkedIn has promised to do something with the groups. I get it. The LinkedIn groups aren't that active. They're not that valuable. But they promise they're doing something. They've sent out emails that they got big plans for it. So join that. You get 2 free ebooks. Takes you 10 seconds. Come on. Help a brother out, will you?
I want to know the truth, because deep down in places that you don't talk about are team and management meetings. You want me on that call. You need me on that call. We use words like fleet view, volume control, total cost of ownership. We use these words as a backbone of a life spent negotiating something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor inclination to explain myself to people who rise and sleep under the very blanket of revenue that I provide and then question the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, may I suggest you pick up a phone and make some sales calls. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to.
Did you expense the lap dances?
I did the job I was hired
Did you
to-
expense the lap dances?
You're goddamn right I did!